Beamy, 23, broke college student working part-time for some elderly care organization. Pay is shit, but bills don't pay themselves. Get assigned to this old guy named George Thompson, 77 years old. Lives alone in this ancient house. First time I knock on his door, takes him like 5 minutes to answer. Opens up, looks me up and down with this skeptical expression. "You're the kid they sent?" "Yeah, that's me." Shuffles back inside, doesn't even invite me in properly. House smells like old wood and mothballs. Guy's clearly been living alone for way too long. George is exactly what you'd expect from a grumpy old widower. Complains about everything. The weather, his back, the government. First few visits are awkward as hell. I'm supposed to help with groceries, light cleaning, basic stuff. He just sits in his armchair watching me work. Occasionally grunts approval or tells me I'm doing something wrong. This job is gonna suck, but the money is money, so I keep showing up every week. Usually Thursdays around 2 p.m. Routine becomes pretty standard. Bring groceries from his list, always written in this shaky handwriting. Vacuum the living room and kitchen. Sometimes help him reach stuff from high shelves. Guy's got stories though. I'll give him that. After about a month, George starts warming up, still grumpy, but in a more friendly way, starts telling me about his time in the army, served in Vietnam. Apparently talks about his late wife Margaret, been dead for 3 years now. You can tell he misses her like crazy. House is full of their old photos. The work isn't too bad once you get used to it. George has his quirks, but he's not mean, just lonely. Really. Starts looking forward to my visits. Always has the kettle ready when I arrive. Makes this terrible instant coffee, but I drink it anyway. Complains about his neighbors, his doctor, the mailman. Basically anyone who crosses his path. Sometimes I catch him looking out the window before I arrive, like he's waiting. For me to show up feels good, knowing I'm probably the highlight of his week. Guy doesn't have much family around. Mentions a son who lives across the country. Talks about his granddaughter. Sometimes, Emma. I think her name is, apparently she's in college. Studies design or something. Sounds proud of her, but wishes she visited more. George's house is like a time capsule. Still has the same furniture from the 80s. Kitchen appliances that should be in a museum. But it's clean. Just old guy takes care of his stuff. Teaches me how to properly fold his clothes. Very particular about how things should be done. His way or the highway. The grocery runs become routine. Same store. Same aisles. George gives me cash in an envelope every week. Always exactly the right amount, plus a small tip. Buys the same brands every time. Creature of habit. I know his shopping list by heart now. Whole milk, white bread, those gross TV dinners he likes, always forgets to write down bananas but wants them anyway. Cleaning isn't too hard, either. Guy's place stays pretty tidy. Just needs basic maintenance, vacuum, dust, wipe down surfaces. George supervises from his chair, points out spots I missed, acts like he's doing me a favor by letting me know. But I can tell he appreciates the help. Start noticing little improvements in his mood. Smiles, more often, complains less. Well, slightly less. Starts asking about my life, what I'm studying, where I'm from. Tells me I remind him of himself when he was young. Not sure if that's a compliment or not. Winter hits, and the visits become more important. George doesn't go out much when it's cold. I become his main connection to the outside world. Bring him news about neighborhood happenings, which stores have sales, what's going on downtown. He eats this stuff up. Acts like I'm his personal news reporter. George starts opening up more about his past. Tells me how he met Margaret at a dance hall, married her after knowing her for 6 months different. Times back then, he says, talks about raising their kids, the struggles, the good times. You can see his face light up when he remembers the happy stuff around Christmas time. Things get weird. George gets quieter, more nostalgic. First Christmas without Margaret was rough. Second one was worse. This will be his third. I can tell he's dreading it, starts giving me extra tasks just to keep me around longer. Need help organizing his closet. Want me to check all the light bulbs, obvious excuses, but I don't mind bringing him a small Christmas gift. Nothing fancy, just a book about military history. Guy almost tears up, haven't received a present in years. He says, makes me realize how isolated he really is. His son called on Christmas morning, 5-minute conversation, mostly small talk. George pretends it was longer than it was. After the holidays, our routine settles in again, but something's changed. George seems more attached now. Always asks when I'll be back, wants to make sure I'm not switching to someone else's route. Tells me I'm the best helper he's had. Apparently the organization sent a few different people before me. None of them lasted more than a couple visits. George scared them off with his attitude. Start bringing my homework sometimes. George doesn't mind if I study while he watches TV. Actually likes having someone around doing their own thing. Makes the house feel less empty, he says. Sometimes helps me with history assignments. Guy's memory for dates and events is incredible. Lived through most of the stuff I'm reading about. Spring arrives, and George seems more energetic, wants to work in his little garden out back. Mostly just giving directions while I do the actual work, planting vegetables, pulling weeds, complains that I don't know a tomato plant from a weed, but teaches me anyway. Talks about how Margaret used to love gardening, kept the most beautiful flower beds. Our relationship has definitely evolved, went from awkward professional visits to something more personal. George treats me less like hired help and more like family. Still grumpy, still complains about everything, but there's genuine affection there now. I look forward to our Thursday afternoons. Beats sitting in my cramped apartment doing nothing. Realize I've been doing this job for almost a year now. George has become a regular part of my life. Weird how you can get attached to someone you initially dreaded visiting. Guy's got his moments of wisdom between all the complaining. Taught me how to change a tire, fix a leaky faucet. Practical stuff my dad never bothered to show me. George starts talking more about his granddaughter Emma. Apparently she's doing well in college, studying design, wants to work in advertising or something creative. He's proud but worries she's too focused on school. Needs to get out more, meet people, have some fun while she's young. Keeps saying he wishes she'd find a nice boyfriend, someone who'd treat her right sometimes. George shows me pictures of Emma, graduation photos, family gatherings, pretty girl. Looks like she's got her life together. George always lights up when talking about her. She's his pride and joy. Wishes she lived closer so he could see her more often, but understands young people need to live their own lives. The routine continues through spring and into summer. Thursday afternoons with George, groceries, cleaning, occasional yard work, listening to his stories, drinking terrible coffee. Guy's become like a grandfather figure to me. Never really had that growing up. Both my grandfathers died when I was little. George's health seems pretty stable. Gets around okay with his walker. Takes a bunch of medications, but manages fine. Biggest complaint is his arthritis. Weather changes make his joints ache, but he's tough. Doesn't let it slow him down much. Still sharp as a tack mentally. Start thinking about what I'll do after graduation. We'll probably have to quit this job. Find something. Full-time in my field. Makes me sad to think about leaving George. Guy's going to need help from someone. Hope whoever replaces me treats him well. He deserves better than some random person who doesn't care. Summer passes quickly with our weekly visits. George's garden produces actual vegetables. Proudly shows me every tomato and pepper. Insists I take some home hot. Acts like he grew them himself instead of just supervising. But I appreciate the gesture. Nice to see him take pride in something again. So I'm at this house party my roommate dragged me to. Don't really know anyone there. Typical college scene, loud music, red Solo cups everywhere. Standing in the kitchen trying to look like I belong when this girl walks up to the fridge. Blonde hair, bright smile, looks familiar somehow. Wearing this vintage band t-shirt and ripped jeans. Definitely my type. She's digging around for something to drink. Fridge is packed with beer and random leftovers, struggling to find whatever she's looking for. Decide to be helpful. Need help finding anything? She looks up, smiles. Yeah, I brought some of those fancy sparkling waters, but they're buried somewhere in here. Help her move stuff around until we find them. She thanks me, introduces herself as Emma. We start talking. Turns out Emma's really easy to talk to. Studies design at the local college. Passionate about art. Wants to work in advertising. Has this infectious laugh. Makes fun of the terrible music they're playing. We end up talking for like an hour straight. Completely forget about the party going on around us. Roommate keeps giving me thumbs up from across the room. Emma's got this energy about her. Talks with her hands a lot. Gets excited about random stuff. Shows me pictures on her phone of projects she's working on. Logos, poster designs, some really cool stuff. Clearly talented and knows what she wants to do with her life. Refreshing to meet someone with actual goals greater than ask if she wants to get some air. Party's getting too loud anyway. We end up on the back porch talking for hours. She's funny, smart, doesn't take herself too seriously, tells me about her family, mentions her grandfather lives nearby, talks about how much she loves the old guy, wishes she could visit him more, but college keeps her busy. Something about the way she talks about her grandfather reminds me of George, probably just because I spend so much time with old people now. Ask what her grandfather's like. She lights up talking about him, says he's grumpy but sweet. Served in Vietnam, lost his wife a few years ago. Sounds exactly like George, but there's probably a million old guys like that. End of the night, ask for her number. She actually gives it to me. Texts me the next day with some joke about the terrible party music. We start texting regularly. Casual stuff at first. Memes, complaints about classes, random observations. She's got a good sense of humor. Ask Emma out on a proper date. She suggests this little coffee shop downtown. Not my usual scene, but whatever, shows up. Looking amazing in the sundress. We talk for 3 hours straight. Time just flies when I'm with her. She asks about my job. Tell her I work with elderly people. She thinks it's sweet that I help take care of old folks. Emma's studying graphic design, but wants to branch out, talks about maybe doing web design or working for an ad agency. Has all these creative ideas. Shows me her portfolio on her tablet. Seriously impressive stuff, way more artistic than anything I could ever do. Makes me feel kind of basic in comparison. Second date goes even better. Take her to this art museum. She mentioned wanting to visit. She explains all the different techniques and styles. I pretend to understand more than I actually do. But I love watching her get excited about art. She's passionate about everything she cares about, including me. Apparently, we start hanging out regularly. Study dates, movie nights, walks around campus. She fits perfectly into my routine. Tuesday and Saturday nights become Emma nights, still keeping up with George on Thursdays. Life's getting pretty good. Emma's always posting stuff on social media, takes pictures of everything we do together. Not in an annoying way, just documenting life. Tags me in random posts. Her friends seem to like me from what I can tell. She talks about me to them, which feels good. Around month 2 of dating, things get more serious. Spending most weekends together, she stays over at my place sometimes. Meets my roommate, gets along great with everyone, easy to be around, doesn't create drama, exactly what I needed in my life. Emma asks about my family. Tell her about my parents back home. Nothing too exciting. Standard middle-class upbringing. She talks more about hers, lives with her parents when she's not at school. Has a good relationship with them, especially close to her mom. Dad's a bit protective, but fair. The grandfather stories continue. Emma clearly adores. This old man talks about how he raised her dad, how he's been struggling since her grandmother died. Wishes she could spend more time with him, but between school and work, she barely has time to visit. Feels guilty about it. Realize I never told Emma about George. Not really relevant to our relationship, just work stuff. But listening to her talk about her grandfather makes me think about him. Wonder if George would like Emma. Probably would. She's got that cheerful energy he could use. More of. Emma and I start saying we love each other. Happens naturally, not forced. We're watching some stupid movie at her dorm. She just looks at me and says it. I say it back because it's true. Feels right. Not scary, like I thought it would be. We're both grinning like idiots. Spring semester flies by with Emma in my life. Everything's better when you have someone to share it with. She comes to my intramural games. I help her with presentations for her design classes. We're that couple that actually likes spending time together, not just tolerating each other. George notices I'm in a better mood during our visits. Asks if I got a girlfriend, tell him about Emma. He's genuinely happy for me. Says young people should enjoy themselves. Wishes his granddaughter would find someone nice. Always comes back to wanting Emma to be happy. Describe Emma to George: blonde, studies design, funny, smart. He nods approvingly. Says she sounds like a keeper. Tells me not to screw it up. Thanks for the vote of confidence, George. But he's right. Emma's definitely a keeper. Summer approaches, and Emma's stressing about internships, wants to work at a design firm. Has interviews lined up. I help her practice, give her pep talks. She's going to do great, but worries anyway. Perfectionist streak that's both admirable and exhausting. Our relationship hits the 1-year mark. Can't believe it's been that long already. Emma suggests we celebrate by going to this fancy restaurant. She's not usually high maintenance about stuff like that. But anniversaries are important to her. Fine by me. She's worth celebrating. Dinner's amazing. Emma looks incredible, wearing this dress she bought specifically for tonight. We talk about how much has changed since we met. Both feel like we've grown as people. She makes me want to be better. Sounds cheesy, but it's true. Walking back to my car after dinner, Emma gets quiet, seems nervous about something. Finally asks what I think about the future, like, our future together. Wasn't expecting such a serious conversation, but I tell her the truth, can't imagine being with anyone else. Emma smiles, says she feels the same way, suggests we should probably meet each other's families soon. Talk about maybe moving in together after graduation. Planning a future together feels natural. Not rushing anything, just being realistic about where we're heading. Decide to spend more time at each other's places, get to know the daily routine stuff. How she likes her coffee, what shows she watches. She learns about my weird sleep schedule and terrible cooking. We complement each other well. She's organized, I'm laid back. She's creative, I'm practical. Emma starts talking about introducing me to her parents. They live about an hour away. Wants to bring me to some family dinner soon. Meet the whole clan at once. Includes her grandfather. Apparently, he lives close to her parents. Usually joins them for Sunday dinners. The thought of meeting her family makes me nervous. What if they don't like me? Emma assures me they'll love me. Her mom already likes me based on what Emma's told her. Dad might be tougher, but he's fair. Grandfather will probably grill me about my intentions. Standard protective family stuff. Summer job hunting becomes a priority. Need something better than the elderly care gig. Don't get me wrong, I love George. But the pay isn't enough to support a real adult life, especially if Emma and I are serious about moving in together. Start sending out resumes, going to interviews. Emma's doing her own job, searching internship applications, portfolio reviews. We help each other practice interviews, give each other pep talks when rejections come in. It's nice having someone in your corner, makes the whole process less stressful. One day Emma brings up marriage. Not like a proposal or anything, just wondering how I feel about it in general. Do I want to get married someday? To her specifically? Big conversation to have over takeout Chinese food, but we're both mature enough to handle it. Tell Emma honestly that marriage sounds good, with the right person, and she's definitely the right person. She gets this huge smile, says she's been thinking the same thing. Maybe not immediately after graduation, but eventually, when we're more settled, start making loose plans where we want to live, what kind of wedding we'd want, nothing concrete, just dreaming out loud. Emma wants something small and simple, family and close friends only. Sounds perfect to me. Never been one for big productions. The family dinner invitation finally comes. Emma's parents want to meet me, scheduled for a Sunday in a few weeks. She's excited. I'm terrified. Meeting the parents is always nerve-wracking. But meeting the parents when you're serious about their daughter is worse. Emma coaches me on what to expect. Her dad, Michael, works in construction. Mom Laura teaches elementary school, both down to earth. People greater than grandfather George will probably be there too. Greater than she always calls him George, not grandpa. Greater than says he prefers it that way. Greater than wait, her grandfather's name is George? Emma confirms, George Thompson. That's my George's name too. Probably just a coincidence, common name for guys his age. Still weird though. Ask where he lives. Emma gives me the address. Holy shit, that's George's address. That's my George. Emma notices I've gone pale. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost? Try to play it cool. Ask more questions about her grandfather. Age, background, military service. Everything matches. Emma's grandfather is George. The George I've been taking care of for over a year. What are the odds? Should I tell Emma right now? Or wait until the family dinner? This is going to be the weirdest introduction ever. Hi, nice to meet you. I've been grocery shopping for your grandfather. Emma's still talking about how excited she is for me to meet everyone, especially George. If only she knew, spend the next 2 weeks freaking out internally. Emma has no idea I know her grandfather, keep debating whether to tell her before the dinner. But how do you even bring that up? Hey babe, funny story. I've been your grandfather's caregiver for a year. Sounds insane. Decide to just let it play out naturally. Thursday visit with George feels surreal. Now, he's talking about Emma coming for dinner this weekend, bringing her boyfriend to meet the family. Doesn't know her boyfriend is sitting right there. George is actually nervous about it. Wants to make a good impression, says Emma. Deserves a good guy. What if he's one of those college boys who just wants to mess around? Reassure George that Emma's smart, wouldn't date someone who'd treat her badly. If only he knew he's already approved of the guy. This whole situation is getting ridiculous. George asks me to help him clean the house extra well. Emma's parents are hosting, but he'll be there, wants to look presentable. Iron his good shirt, shine his shoes, touching how much he cares about Emma's happiness. Makes me even more nervous about the dinner. Emma's excited all week, keeps talking about how much she wants us to get along, especially me and George, says we have similar personalities, both stubborn but good-hearted. She has no idea how right she is. I think you'll really like him, Noah. He's got all these amazing stories from when he was young. Sometimes he's grumpy, but he's got such a good heart. Every description makes me smile. She's talking about George like I don't know him, but hearing how much she loves him makes me happy. The day of the dinner arrives. Emma picks out my outfit, wants me to make a good first impression. Button-down shirt, nice jeans, nothing too formal, but respectable. She's more nervous than I am at this point. Keeps adjusting my collar, drive to her parents' house. It's in a nice suburban neighborhood. Emma points out George's house on the way. Yep, definitely the same place I visit every Thursday. My hands are literally shaking now. Emma notices and squeezes my hand. They're going to love you, don't worry. Pull into the driveway, Emma's parents. House is well maintained. Flower beds, manicured lawn, can see where Emma gets her aesthetic sense. Take a deep breath. This is it. Emma rings the doorbell. Her mom, Laura, answers. Warm smile. Gives Emma a big hug. Turns to me with genuine friendliness. You must be Noah. We've heard so much about you. Shake her hand. Try to seem normal. She invites us in. House smells like pot roast and fresh bread. Family photos everywhere. can spot Emma in various stages of growing up. Laura leads us to the living room. Michael's in the kitchen. George just arrived. My stomach drops. Walk into the living room. There's George sitting on the couch. Same cardigan he always wears. Same skeptical expression he had when we first met, except now he's looking at me like he's seen a ghost because he has Emma bounces over to him. George, I want you to meet Noah. George just stares at me, mouth slightly open. Doesn't say anything for a solid 10 seconds. Emma looks confused. George, this is Noah, my boyfriend. George slowly stands up, walks over to me. We're both trying to figure out what to say. Emma's watching this awkward exchange, probably wondering why we're acting weird. Noah, George finally says. Well, I'll be damned. Emma laughs nervously. Do you two know each other or something? George looks at me. I look at George. This is the moment. No way around it now. Emma, I say slowly, this is going to sound crazy, but George and I have actually met. Emma's face scrunches up in confusion. What? When? Where? George chuckles, shakes his head. Boy comes to my house every Thursday. Brings me groceries, helps me clean. Been doing it for over a year. Emma's jaw drops, looks back and forth between us. Wait, what? Noah, you work with elderly people. George, you have a caregiver. Are you telling me? Yep, George says. Your boyfriend here is the best damn helper I've ever had. Kid's been taking care of me better than my own family. Ouch, George, but fair point. Emma just stands there processing her parents. Michael and Laura walk in, sense the tension immediately. Everything okay in here? Michael asks. Laura notices Emma's shocked expression. Mom, Dad, Emma says slowly. Noah is George's caregiver, the one he talks about sometimes. They've known each other for a year. Michael and Laura look as confused as Emma did. George is grinning now. Thinks this whole thing is hilarious. Life's funny that way, he says. Boy's been part of the family longer than any of us knew. Laura starts laughing first. Well, that's certainly unexpected. Michael extends his hand to me. Guess we owe you a thank you. Dad's been in much better spirits since you started helping him. Shake his hand, still in shock. Emma finally snaps out of her confusion. Starts asking a million questions. How did you not know his granddaughter was me? How did I not know my caregiver was you? What are the odds of this happening? Explain to Emma how George talks about her. Just first name. Studying design, thousands of college students in the city. Never occurred to me it could be the same. Emma, George nods along. Talked about you plenty, boy. Never mentioned your name, though. Just called you my helper. Dinner is surreal, sitting at the table with Emma's family. Except I already know half the people here. George keeps making jokes about the situation. Been interviewing your boyfriend for a year? Emma. Kid passed with flying colors. Laura serves pot roast. Same. Meal. George always talks about missing. His wife, Margaret, used to make it just like this. Can see the nostalgia in his eyes. Emma notices me watching him. You really do know him well, don't you? Throughout dinner, Emma's parents ask about my job, how I ended up working with elderly people, what it's like taking care of George. They seem genuinely appreciative. George keeps bragging about how responsible I am, how I never miss a visit, always on time. This boy saved my sanity, George announces. House was getting too quiet after Margaret died. Having Noah around made it feel like home again. Emma reaches over and squeezes my hand under the table. Can tell she's seeing me in a new light. After dinner, Emma and I help clear the table. She's still processing everything. I can't believe this, she whispers. You've been taking care of my grandfather this whole time. He talks about you constantly when I call him. Always says how much he likes his Thursday helper. You talk about him all the time, too, I tell her. Always wondered why your grandfather sounded so much like George. Thought it was just coincidence. She shakes her head in amazement. George pulls me aside while Emma's talking to her mom. So you're serious about my granddaughter? Already had this conversation in a way. But now it has new meaning. Very serious, George. Planning to marry her if she'll have me? George nods approvingly. Good man. Been watching you for over a year. Know you're reliable, kind, hardworking, better recommendation than any background check. Never thought about it that way. But he's right. Emma deserves the best, George continues. Always worried she'd end up with some loser. But I've seen how you treat people who can't do anything for you. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. Emma comes back over, catches the end of our conversation. Are you two conspiring about something? George grins, just giving this boy my blessing. Though I suppose I already did that months ago. Rest of the evening flies by. Emma's parents share embarrassing childhood stories. George tells war stories. I've heard a dozen times, but now Emma's hearing them too. She keeps looking at me like she's seeing me for the first time, driving home. Emma's quiet. Finally, she speaks up. This changes everything, doesn't it? Ask what she means. You've been part of my family for longer than you've been my boyfriend. George loves you like a grandson already. Park outside Emma's dorm. She turns to face me. I keep thinking about what George said, about watching your character. He's right, you know. The way someone treats people who can't benefit them, that shows who they really are. I fell in love with you at that party, but knowing how you've taken care of George, how much you genuinely care about him, it makes me love you even more. We sit in comfortable silence for a while. So what happens now? Emma asks. Do you keep being his caregiver? Feels weird now that we're dating. Tell her I hadn't thought about that. Probably should discuss it with the agency. Might be a conflict of interest. Maybe you could just visit him as family instead, Emma suggests. Keep the same schedule if you want. But as his granddaughter's boyfriend, not as his paid helper, idea has merit. George would probably prefer it that way. More personal, less transactional. Plus, I genuinely enjoy spending time with him. Wouldn't want to stop just because of technicalities. A few weeks later, Emma and I are talking about engagement, not if, but when. She jokes that George has already given his approval. Longest interview process ever. He's been testing you for over a year. And you passed, decide to propose at Christmas traditional. But Emma likes traditional things. Plan to ask her parents' permission first, and George's too. Officially this time. Want to do this right? George is thrilled when I tell him my plans. About time, boy. Been waiting for you to make an honest woman out of her. Helps me pick out a ring. Has strong opinions about diamonds. Wants Emma to have something special. Christmas morning proposal goes perfectly. Emma says yes. Immediately, starts crying happy tears. George pretends he's surprised, but I caught him grinning before I even got down on one knee. Engagement party is at Emma's parents' house. George gives a toast. Known this boy for 2 years now. Watched him take care of an old man who meant nothing to him. Just because it was the right thing to do. That's the kind of man I want for my granddaughter. Emma cries during the toast. Later she tells me it's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever said about us. He's right though. You took care of him before you even knew he was family. That says everything about who you are. Wedding planning begins immediately. Emma wants George to walk her down the aisle with her father. He's honored but worried. About his mobility. Practice sessions in the backyard. Michael on one side, George on the other. Emma beaming between them the day before the wedding. George pulls me aside one last time. Want to thank you, son. Not just for taking care of me, but for loving my family. For becoming part of it without even knowing. Funny how life works, he continues. You came into my life when I needed you most. Turns out I was preparing you to be my grandson. Like it was meant to be. Wedding day arrives. Standing at the altar waiting for Emma. See George in the front row. Same cardigan he always wears. Gives me a thumbs up and a wink. We've come a long way from that first awkward Thursday. Emma appears at the back of the church. beautiful in her grandmother Margaret's dress, walking between her father and George, both men trying not to cry. George makes it down the aisle like a champ during the ceremony. I catch George's eye. He nods at me with approval, this grumpy old man who became my family before I even knew what family meant. Sometimes the best things in life happen by accident.